When you say politics and Christmas, there are a few things that come to mind. The annual meltdown over Starbucks cups, the division between saying Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays, and a general distaste, presumably fruitcake flavored, at the idea that the two should even mix at all. Christmas time is about peace, love, and goodwill towards all mankind. Politics is, well, definitely not that. But the story of Christmas is just as much a political one as it is religious. We think of Christmas as a immutable, sacrosanct holiday, but like all things, it had to come from somewhere. Choices had to be made, and wherever there's choice, you're almost virtually guaranteed contestation. There are lots of things we take for granted about Christmas that were ultimately chosen somewhere by someone for some reason, and that includes the part of Christmas we take most for granted, the date on which it falls. So today, to celebrate the holidays, we're going to dive into the history to answer a deceptively simple question. Why is Christmas on December 25th? The glib answer is that it isn't. Well, at least not everywhere. Christmas occurring on the 25th of the year is actually something that happens in the Western Christian traditions. There are Orthodox churches in Egypt, Greece, Russia, Ethiopia, and elsewhere that celebrate Christmas on January 7th. But that answer is too superficial because those churches would insist that they are celebrating Christmas on December 25th. It's just that their 25th is different from the Western 25th. In 1582, Pope Gregory XIII introduced what would be known as the Gregorian calendar, which altered the leap year rules inherited from the Julian calendar that caused the latter to drift over the course of hundreds of years. But while the majority of countries eventually adopted the change, many Christian Orthodox churches didn't. They celebrate Christmas on what is the 25th on the Julian calendar, which, fun fact, means that Christmas will start being celebrated on January 8th by these churches in 2100. Alright, so even if the different churches and traditions are celebrating it at different times of the year, they're at least going for the same idea. Does that mean that there's a deep agreement about the import of the 25th? Today, yes, but back when the decision was made initially, absolutely not. You may have heard that December 25th isn't actually the day of Jesus' birth. This is true. You may have heard that the true date actually falls on March 25th. This is not, or at least not strictly true, because it could also be the 28th, or maybe April 19th, or April 20th, May 20th, or November 18th, and, well, you get the idea. The truth is, we actually don't know when Jesus' true date of birth was. A big reason why we know is because early Christians didn't actually place an emphasis on Jesus' birth. They were much more preoccupied with Easter, the celebration of his resurrection. Which, makes sense, as that was one of the most important miracles Christ performed. But the early church had a habit of celebrating the death of notable figures and saints, as opposed to their births, since it was in death that they were welcomed into the kingdom of heaven. Eventually, though, different sects of the church began various celebrations surrounding the point when Jesus' divinity was recognized. And although there are differences all around, there are two main schisms that represent the geographic divide in the early church. The Eastern Church, notably Egypt for reasons that'll become apparent very shortly, began celebrating what we call the Epiphany, or the point where Christ's otherworldliness was first recognized. Although what that point was debatable. Is it when Mary was told that she would bear God's Son? When he performed the miracle of the fish and loaves? When he was baptized by John the Baptist? The evidence suggests that most widespread celebrations began with this last occasion in mind, but the holiday became increasingly associated with the Nativity, although it was always a very pluralistic holiday, celebrating a variety of events and miracles in tandem with the Nativity and Jesus' birth. This holiday was established on January 6th, and although there is currently debate among historians on this point, it seems likely that the reason that this date was chosen specifically was to co-opt a pre-existing Egyptian festival. In the West, the Roman Emperor Constantine made his famous conversion to Christianity in the 4th century. Either towards the end of his life or soon after his death, the church in Rome decided to infuse Christmas, the celebration of Jesus' birth, into the pre-existing celebrations of Saturnalia, Cal Ens, and the birthday of the sun god Sol Invictus. The first two were in December and early January, spanning several days. The last one had a specific day, though, December 25th. It makes sense for a number of different reasons to use a pre-existing holiday to attach Christmas to. It also makes sense that they used the birthday of one of the most important Roman gods in the empire. It gave the religion and the day more of a chance that it would actually stick. Later church figures and intellectuals used this date as a means of orienting the celebration of the saints with Christ at the center, but it's doubtful that they ever actually believed that the date literally commemorated Jesus' birth. Instead, they saw the date as a way of adding depth to their festivities, helping spread Christianity, and taming the excesses of Saturnalia. Ultimately, though, all the evidence suggests that the date was chosen prior to there being any widespread belief that it was the literal day of Christ's birth. The Eastern Church was not about this, at least not initially. In their minds, they already had a celebration of Jesus' birth, Epiphany. Not only that, but they were basically at the same time. A rift like this could cause serious issues with the church, and as a certain troublemaker demonstrated in the early 1500 by nailing 95 Theses to the Catholic Church's door, disputes could result in severe socio-political issues, let alone theological ones. Oh, Martin Luther, you rascal, you. The church wanted to avoid that kind of strain and make the faith's appeal as universal as possible. So, at the Council of Tours in 567, they decided to recognize an entire holy season, extending from the 25th through January 6th. Basically saying both days are equally important parts of an entire span that should celebrate the birth and epiphany of Jesus. The fact that it gave people, an extended amount of time to celebrate and be merry, probably didn't hurt its adoption. By the way, as a fun little tidbit, this is where we get, the 12 days of Christmas. It's the span from the 25th through the 6th. So all the deals and adverts that you probably started getting around the 13th with, 12 days of Christmas sales are commemorating totally incorrect dates. In any event, while Christmas seems inexorably tied to the 25th of December due to spiritual or theological reasons, history shows that it's really more political. It was about choices, spanning everything from what calendar to follow, what specific day to choose, and what that day specifically means. And since it is fundamentally about choice, I hope those choosing to celebrate makes choices about how they commemorate the day in ways that brings them and their loved ones joy. Merry Christmas. I'll see you guys in the new year. Last week we talked about the Yellow Vest protests, why they started, and the deeper meanings for why they continue. So let's see what you guys had to say about that. Devanis chimed in as someone who is French with a comment that's very much worth your read. There's no easy way to summarize it in a way that does it justice without just basically reading the whole thing off, so I recommend just, giving it a read and gaining what I think is a pretty important perspective. Tim Northrup also had a good take, saying that Macron's ratings are an artifact of how he was elected, him, being few people's first choice, but largely seen as better than his opponent, Marine Le Pen, which I think is spot on, and a good demonstration of how political systems can influence future political outcomes. Lassa 91 makes the point that the protests are about other things that I didn't talk about, including mass migration, the European Union, and identity. I think that these things absolutely matter, but they matter in ways that aren't necessarily clear, since there's such a wide swatch of the political spectrum supporting the movement. Many marching probably do perceive an erosion of French identity or have an issue with migration or with the EU. Others probably don't though, so there are definitely factors, but it'll mean different things for different kinds of people. As of now, the Yellow Vests appear to be a wide-spanning political coalition. I apparently could have worded that better. So what I meant by that was that I made it entirely from scratch. Like, I didn't make pre-made dough and bake it. That's what I was saying. I got the flour, the water, the yeast, and the salt, and I made them into the surprisingly edible bludgeons that they turned out to be. Thank you guys so much for your comments. It truly means the world to have your guys' thoughts down there in the comment section and to interact with them like we do. So please, please, please keep them coming. There won't be another video until January 9th since I'm taking time off for the holidays. So I'll see you guys then. Links for everything as always will be down in the doobly-doo, as well as links to Facebook, Twitter, and the blog. Looking forward to seeing you guys up there as well. Enjoyed this video, this sweater, or this hat, I hope you consider giving it a thumbs up. If you want to support the channel, you can do so by commenting down below, by sharing this video, by subscribing to the channel, stay in the loop for more awesome social science content is uploaded. If you want to be guaranteed to be in the loop when I upload a new video, be sure to click the bell icon as well. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you next time.